This is the Upper Midwest, and right now I'm going to show you where you could retire or just live a more affordable life in this region of the United States. What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to World According to Briggs and a video about towns in the United States you could retire on less than $1,658 a month. We did this series a few years back and had the price at $1,500 because at the time that was the average Social Security insurance payment, and it was also close to about half the average military retirement payment monthly. Things have changed. Prices are up across the board. Real estate, insurance, tickets for Kenny G concerts, everything. Side note, taking an Ambien has the same effect as a Kenny G concert for a fraction of the price. Be smart with your finances, everyone. Today we're looking at the Upper Midwest states, North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan. Some people consider Iowa in the Upper Midwest. Most see it as part of the Lower Midwest section or just the Midwest. We'll have it on the normal Midwest video. The $1,658 on this video is what it should cost for the average person to live comfortably. In this case, comfortably means you never have to worry about food, eviction, or your utilities getting shut off every single month. The stat in this video is just the average. There's 1,000,001 different scenarios that could change a person's financial situation. Divorce, dependence, poor health, whatever. This is just the basics for the average Joe. You know your own financial situation, and if you're making less than $1,600 a month, then make some adjustments. This is just the average. All right, let's take a look and see where you could live for under $1,658 a month. Number 10, Jamestown, North Dakota. Yes, starting off in North Dakota. These are in no particular order, just so you guys know. They are also all very cold states. Normally, when you retire or you get a little bit older, you don't want to live in a colder state. That doesn't mean some people, like myself, prefer to live in colder states no matter what my age is. So all these states have that as a negative, cold winters. But let's take a look at Jamestown, North Dakota. Jamestown is a town right between Bismarck and Fargo, North Dakota. So you got two choices. If you need to go to the big city, you got Bismarck, you got Fargo, because Jamestown is not that big. Matter of fact, Jamestown only has 15,000 residents. The good news is they have a crime rate that is only 1% higher than the national average. Normally, I'd like to get things below the national average, but this town has some really good things that kind of make up for that. The first thing is their housing, their median home listing price is $120,000, which is 30% lower than the national average. If you're looking to buy a place, they have plenty of homes here for around $150,000, actually lower. I've seen some that were like $120,000 that look nice. They look livable. This is just going by Zillow that you can get for like $150,000. If you want to go a little higher, they have plenty that are, upwards of $300,000, but not many of those. Most of the homes here are below $200,000, I would say. They don't have a bunch of rentals here, but real estate websites say that they are 34% lower than the national average, and the cost of living here is 10% lower than the national average. This place gets cold, like I'd said. You could tell it gets cold because most of the pictures on Zillow are of snowy houses, so if they've got to take a picture in the snow, it's getting cold there quite often. Real estate agents almost never want to take a picture of something in the snow. They wait till the spring to get pictures or the summer or something like that. Jamestown has a quality of life score of 81. And your average monthly expenditure in Jamestown, North Dakota is $1,489. Number 9, Brookings, South Dakota. Going down to South Dakota, a state that has become more and more popular over the last few years. And no, it's not because they got a smoking hot governor. For some reason, every time I mention South Dakota, we get comments that people are moving there because their governor's so hot. No, people don't move to another state because the governor is hot. She is good looking, but she's also a governor and a pretty smart woman. If how the governor looks affected the migration patterns of human beings, West Virginia would be vacant right now. Governor Jim Justice looks like a failed car salesman with a quirky thyroid. But right now we are talking about Brookings, South Dakota. Brookings is almost an hour north of Sioux Falls, not too far west from the border of Minnesota. Brookings is one of those cities that gets high grades from the locals that live there. They seem to really love this place. They got a population of about 23,000. They've got a crime rate that's 50 23% lower than the national average. Bravo, Brookings. That's good. The median listing price here for a house is $164,000, which is 11% lower than the national average. Rent, they say, is 29% lower, and the cost of living is 6% lower. Brookings has a quality of life score of 84, and your average monthly expenditure would be $1,578. That's to get by and live decent. Number 8, Marshall, Minnesota. Marshall, Minnesota is way out in the prairies, 3 hours away from everything. Actually, the closest big city to them would be Minneapolis, and that's 3 hours to their east. But if you want to go out of state, Sioux Falls is about an hour and a half to the southwest. Marshall is definitely not a bad place to live. Again, this is a city that gets high praise from the residents. They seem to love it here, and they all mention how cold it gets, so it's not breaking any rules of the upper Midwest. Marshall has a population of about 14,000, and they've got a crime rate that's 56% lower than the national average. Now, the median listing price here is about $144,000, which is 22% lower than the national average. Realistically, if you go over and look at Zillow or something, there's plenty of homes here for under $200,000 or thereabouts, but you could still find decent homes here for about $162,000. When I say decent, you're not going to have a pool and a sauna, nothing like that. It's a decent house that maybe needs a paint job. And that's just the way it looks. I'm not out there going under and checking out the plumbing or the electrical or anything like that. If you want that kind of information, you gotta pay for it. Not from me, from like a home inspector. One thing I will tell you, they've got a lot of places right now. They've like expanded, and there's these little communities they're building where you could buy property, no house on it, for about $40,000, somewhere in that area. And of course, you're gonna have to build a house on it, but they've got plenty of lots and planned communities going on right now. Rent is estimated to be 35% lower than the national average, and the cost of living is 9% lower than the national average. The quality of life score in Marshall is 87, which is not bad. If you've never seen these before, anything below 60 kind of really sucks. In the 60s and the 70s, it could be anywhere from okay to pretty good. When you start getting above 80, you're living in a really nice place. So 87 is a good score, and your average monthly expenditure in Marshall, Minnesota would be about $1,545 a month. Number 7, Marysville, Michigan. Marysville, Michigan sits on the St. Clair River right across from Canada and below Lake Huron. And it's far enough north from Detroit to where you don't get none of that Detroit stank on you. This is a great town to live in. They've got about 10,000 residents. Their crime is 68% lower than the national average. And their median listing price is $116,000. That's 37% lower than the national average. Now that number is very misleading because this town has a lot of open lots like future communities and vacant lots that they're selling, and those go for anywhere from like $50,000 to $25,000. Most of the houses here are going to be upwards of $250,000. You're realistically going to be looking around $300,000 to get something nice. But they still have a low cost of living, and they do have some homes for sale that are pretty cheap. They have older homes that are about $200,000, $150,000. They normally come with at least half an acre, so that's a bonus. So this is sort of one of those places that you got to kind of keep an eye on and see when something decent pops up. Marysville has excellent stats across the board, so that might make it worth the extra expense. They say rent is 22% lower than the national average. Their cost of living is 9% lower than the national average. The only reason the real estate here is higher than most places on this list, it's right on the river. There's a lot of things to do. The quality of life score in Marysville, Michigan is 91, and your estimated monthly expenditure would be $1,627. Number 6, Madison, South Dakota. Back to South Dakota we go, and the town of Madison. Madison has a population of just a little over 7,000 residents, and these people are not living in fear of much. Their crime rate is actually 57% lower than the national average, which is a good score. Like I've said many times before, in case you never heard me say this, there are cities in this country, like Detroit, East St. Louis, Southside Chicago, that have crime rates that are 200, 300, and 400% above the national average. So if you're below even a single percentage point, you're doing phenomenal. They're 57% below the national average. And it's a cheap place to live. The median home listing price is $110,000. That's 40% lower than the national average. Madison is in between Sioux Falls and Brookings, a little bit to the west. This is a cute town. They have a nice little downtown area with like a main street called Egan Avenue, where you find a lot of restaurants and bars. The median listing price in Madison, South Dakota is $110,000, which is 40% lower than the national average, which is outstanding. In case you haven't picked up on that yet. I looked around. You could find plenty of homes here that are older that might need a coat of paint, maybe a little bit of work for under $100,000. I'm talking like $75,000. There's not a lot to rent here, but they say rent is 47% lower than the national average, and the cost of living is 14% lower than the national average. Again, if you can get past the cold, this is a solid place to live. They've got a quality of life score of 89. And the estimated average monthly expenditure here is $1,459 a month. Number 5, New Richmond, Wisconsin. Back to the Badger State we go, and New Richmond. We've talked about New Richmond before. A couple of years ago, I did a video on one of the best places to live in Wisconsin, and New Richmond was on that list. New Richmond isn't, but it's pretty close to being in the Minneapolis-St. Paul metro area. It's just across the border. It's about 48 minutes from downtown Minneapolis. So it's kind of close. You got a big city right there, but you're still a little bit out in the prairie in Wisconsin. It's not a bad place to live, and their stats prove it. They've got a population of about 9,000 residents. Their crime rate is 34% lower than the national average. Housing, the median listing price is about $148,000, which is about 20% lower than the national average. This is another place that number about the median listing price is a little deceiving, because that number is kind of brought down by a whole bunch of property they have for sale that's just vacant lots, like $50,000, $60,000. But this is a great community, so again, the extra cost might be worth it. The typical home here will go for over $200,000 and about $250,000, between $200,000 and $250,000. Really nice newer homes start off around $300,000 and go on up. They still have a low cost of living, which is outstanding. The cost of living is actually 8% lower than the national average in New Richmond. Their quality of life score is 86, and your average monthly expenditure would be $1,598. Number 4, Merrill, Wisconsin. This looks like a really nice place to live. I did see one video where a guy was going on and on about a roundabout that the city of Merrill put in some of the streets or something like that. This guy was just, he just couldn't handle the fact that they had added a roundabout in Merrill, Wisconsin. But if that's your biggest problem, you got a really nice place to live. Merrill has a population of about 95,000 residents. Their total crime rate is 26% lower than the national average, and that doesn't count any vandalism towards a roundabout. The housing, this is where this place shines. Their median listing price is $87,000. That's 53% higher than the national average. Now that price is a little artificial because they do have a lot of lots for sale, but that doesn't mean they're expensive. There are plenty of homes ready to move into for about $140,000 and below. There's a couple really nice ones. You know, you probably have to do some work, and they're probably built in the 1950s, but they're under like $75,000. Merrill gets cold. Every single picture of property on this place, it has snow on it. Like if you go to their Zillow page, every single one has snow on the ground. Rent here is estimated to be about 37% lower than the national average, and their cost of living is 18% lower than the national average. This is a great place to retire if you can stand the cold. I mean, it gets cold here and there's a lot of snow. If that doesn't bother you, move to Merrill, Wisconsin. The estimated average monthly expenditure here for a retiree is $1,412 a month. Number 3, Valley City, North Dakota. That's right, we're back in North Dakota. Valley City is just east of Jamestown. It's still in that little area between Bismarck and Fargo along the 94. Wait, okay, so that's not California, so you guys probably call it the Interstate 94 or Interstate 94, whatever. In California, I think I've mentioned this before, but we just call it by the numbers. I don't know why, like the 110, the 405, the 105. We never say interstate or anything like that. It's weird. And I catch myself doing that, and then I get a bunch of comments. So if you ever hear me saying that, that's why. I'm screwed up because of Southern California, like so many other people. Valley City is another one of those places where the locals love it. The high ratings on every single thing. This is just a great place to live. Again, if you don't mind the cold. There's almost 7,000 residents living here, and they've got a crime rate that's 6% lower than the national average. Now, again, here's where they shine. Their housing, the median listing price here is $90,000, which is 52% lower than the national average. Their estimated rent is 31% lower. Now, if you're going to buy a house here, realistically, $150,000 should be your starting point. They do have some that are lower than that, like $80,000, $75,000. There's one older home that looks decent for $49,000, another one for $40,000, but most of the decent ones start off about $150,000 and go on up into the fours. Actually, there's a few good ones that normally come with a couple acres that are like $500,000 and $600,000. This is a great place to live. Their cost of living is 13% lower than the national average. The quality of life score in Valley City is 85, and the average monthly expenditure here is $1,451. Number 2, Kingsford, Michigan. The exciting town of Kingsford, Michigan is way up north. It is so far north it's right next to Norway. Not that Norway, the town Norway, which is right down the road from that and Iron Mountain. Kingsford is in the Iron Mountain metro area, I guess you could say, and it sits on the Menominee River right across from Wisconsin. I found a ton of fishing videos. I guess that's what they do here is they just fish. Kingsford has some of the best stats on this list and probably would have been number 1 if I would have done this in any order. It is also one of the coldest places on this list year-round. The big disadvantage of this place, besides the cold, is they don't really have a lot of jobs. So if you're bringing a job with you or you're retired, great place to live. They got a population of about 5,000 people and their crime rate is 86% lower than the national average. Outstanding, Kingsford. Their housing, the median listing price is $84,000, which is 55% lower than the national average, and rent is estimated to be 31% lower. Currently, they don't have anything to rent and they have very few homes for sale. Right now, they got a 7-bedroom, 3-bath for $170,000. Most of the property here is just that. It's property. It's lots that you could buy. Just not many houses on the market right now. And if this is something you're thinking about, go to Zillow and keep an eye on this town. Something will pop up. The cost of living here is 19% lower than the national average. That's a benefit of being retired, or let's say you work from home. If you find a place that doesn't have a lot of jobs, the cost of living is going to be a lot lower than just about any place else. Kingsford quality of life score is 93, and their average monthly expenditure is $1,398. All right, before we get to number 1, don't forget we have another channel called On This Day. There is a link down below. We'd love it if you went over there and subscribed, watch some videos, give some videos big thumbs up. All right, on to number 1. And number 1, New Ulm, Minnesota. New Ulm, yes, it's spelled U-L-M, Ulm. And it is home to the Minnesota Music Hall of Fame. Inductees include Prince, Judy Garland, the Andrews Sisters. Very interesting little town. New Ulm is about an hour and a half southwest of Minneapolis. Now that's from downtown Minneapolis, and that's when a normal person drives. Every time I say something's like this amount of time from someplace, there's always a comment, I could make it there in an hour. Congratulations, we're all impressed. New Ulm has a population of about 13,000 and their crime rate is 65% lower than the national average. That is not bad. Their housing, the median listing price is $133,000, which is 28% below the national average. Rent is estimated to be around 37% below the national average. Realistically, though, you want to look over $150,000 to $200,000 just to get a normal house that's a little bit older and is decent. They do have homes that are $350,000 all the way up to one that's like $450,000 right now, but a majority of the decent homes are under $200,000. The cost of living in New Ulm is 10% lower than the national average. This is not a bad place to live, again, if you could get past the cold. You don't have to really worry about getting killed here or robbed or anything like that. This is a decent, nice place to live with good people, and it's beautiful. Their quality of life score in New Ulm is 85, and the estimated average monthly expenditure would be $1,564. I like New Ulm. It looks like a really good place to live. Very community-centric, as one person said. All right, that's today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you got some information out of it. Now go out, have a great day, and be nice to each other.